Save education, go must go! Save education, go must go!
Similar struggle in Australia, and a government that also wants to crush unionism, and that's what this is about. It's not just putting their foot into education, crushing unionism and crushing the right of teachers to organise is very, very high on the agenda of your government and my government. And there's another slogan that's very, very popular in Australia amongst those who resist this sort of attempt to weaken the power of workers, and that is, if you don't fight, you'll lose.
We've mentioned a couple of times about the Mr. Go video. It's had nearly 300,000 hits on the YouTube channel. Did you expect it to gain such traction, and why do you think it did so?
No, we absolutely did not expect it to at all. I wrote the piece from the point of view of a character as part of the show, the Burning Books show. So it wasn't me speaking; it's a character speaking, and it's a sort of 60-year-old woman on a picket line who's spent her life teaching and sort of fighting for her pension, against the reforms to education, that sort of thing. I think we put it up on the Thursday, and then the Friday night I went up to Liverpool for the weekend, and my mum rang me on the Saturday morning and was like, "It's got like 100,000 views." And we were really shocked, and it was just strange. Like, I didn't know who all these people were that were watching it, and like people got messaging me saying it had been shared and things, and yeah, I mean it was lovely. It was such a nice feeling to think that it had engaged people and on such a positive level. At the same time, I was getting for about 3 weeks afterwards, I was getting lots and lots and lots of messages, mostly from teachers. And loads of those were really lovely, but there were some really kind of heartbreaking stories that I was getting, like particularly, I'd go to bed at like 11 and I'd get up at 6 in the morning, and I'd get these emails that come through at like 2 or 3 in the morning from teachers that just said, "I am on the brink, I have taught for 20 years and I feel like I can't do this anymore, I'm lonely, I feel like no one understands how hard my job is, I feel completely worn down by the pressures of my job, and every day I open a newspaper or turn on the news and the finger of blame is being pointed at me and other people working in my profession." And that was really heartbreaking, and that happened every day, every night for about 3 weeks, and it was really sad to actually hear those stories from people who otherwise wouldn't be heard.
I mean, I think that's why things like what you do are important, because, like you say, the media has a very one-sided story in terms of who's to blame, who's at fault. They constantly blame teachers for upsetting the working week by taking strike action, but their message isn't really being put out there as well as it might. But something like what you've done makes it accessible and understandable, and it just breaks the argument down for people. So I think that's why it's important that things like what you do is out there.
I've never seen teachers so demoralised. I've never seen a government that's so hateful of the profession. This government have eroded the conditions of teachers, their pay, their pensions, the quality of the environment, and we cannot allow it to go on. They've attacked other workers in a similar way. I edit 2 newsletters from our union, the UCU newsletters, and I get hundreds of letters from people on fractional contract, 0-hour contract, being bullied and harassed at work while they're trying to do a decent job for the students. Teachers don't want to strike, they're opposed to strike. They believe their place is in the classroom to educate and liberate and empower students. And that's what they're best at, and that's what they should be allowed to do.
Thank you for the Bibles, Mr. Gove, but I don't think it's God we need right now. I would like you to stop opening the doors of my profession onto unqualified graduates who are unsure of their prospects and can no longer afford that self-discovery voyage to Bali, so have decided on a whim they'll turn their hands to teaching. I mean, how hard can it be? And I wouldn't mind if they had ever stepped foot in a classroom before. I would help them carry their desk charts and optimistic wall planners through the door, but when shell-shocked war heroes are being told that the road to recovery is 2 paracetamol and class 10B, it is no wonder our headlines seem to follow similar themes recently. I would like Hayley, whose dad incidentally walked out on her for the 10th time last week to get 1 ounce of credit for her speaking and listening. Spelling has never been her strong point, and sometimes she struggles to strengthen her argument with structure and paragraphs, but if you just gave her more time to look over her coursework and redraft, she might actually stand a chance. It is not cheating, Mr. Gove, it is editing. I am sure War and Peace would have been a very different book without at least one glance over. And I know that your mates grew up learning Latin, and are worried that if us on the ground don't start drilling it in, then it will become extinct, a Cinderella language of the elite left in a history book on the shelf. But when you have got to get year 7, who collectively already speak 11 languages, to grasp hold of Spanish and to get to grips with the perfect tense in 6 weeks when you only see them for 4 hours a fortnight. Yes, it was meant to be 9, but the lower level ones are off to English and maths intervention, and the gifted and talented are having a raising aspiration speech about getting into Cambridge, so you were left with the ones in the middle, sitting there, looking at you, knowing that they are nothing more than distinctly average.
And I'll give you another local example where, this government is doing its dirty work. Bedfordshire College, or Central Beds College, which used to be Dunstable College. I'm proud that I went to that college and I did all my training in education. Many of you out here today did the same. And now the principal of that college is thinking about shutting the trade union department there because he don't think trade unions are relevant anymore. Well, I say trade unions are more relevant now than ever before. And we need to keep that open, we need to get more reps trained, and we need to encourage people to join the trade union.
When he calls us the enemies of promise, he is the enemy of us all. He is the enemy of education. He is the enemy of quality education for our children. It's Michael Gove who makes 5- and 6-year-olds sit phonics tests and says they're about reading. They're tests that put children in a place doomed to fail. And then we as teachers have to send letters out to their parents saying, your child is a failure. They're 5 or 6. We know as dedicated professionals that children don't just learn to read by phonics. We know that they learn in lots of different styles.
One of the things I'm on strike for today is the cuts that have been happening in our pension. I've been paying my pension since I started, 26, 27 years. Last April, the government forced through measures which will see me pay more, about £50 more a month, get less when I'm actually retire, and actually work longer, and I have to work till I'm 66. Some of my younger colleagues who are here today will have to work till they're 68 before they can retire, and I don't think anybody wants to see a class full of 10 and 11-year-olds with a 6 or 8-year-old teacher in front of them. It's just wrong. Some of my younger colleagues, I was at a meeting, it is about pay for them and the conditions that they've got. One of the teachers at a meeting recently said, I don't pay into my pension, I can't afford to pay into my pension and run a car to get to work. It's that kind of choice that they have to make at the moment. So I do feel for them.
I am trying to empathise with that chip on your shoulder that you never made it to Eton, you never got to learn the slang or chase the new boys down the corridor whipping them with wet towels. I am sorry that the only incriminating photo of you in the media wasn't with a prostitute on your lap and coke up your nose, but on a picket line in Aberdeen with other beardy, normal-looking blokes. I am seeing things from your side, and honestly, I sympathise. But now try seeing them from mine. It is hard work, Mr. Gove. I wish you could know.